Hi, I'm Tom Crandall, owner of TR Crandall Guitars, and I'm a CGO.
Always saying guitars are playing a part of who we are. Got a cool job, but there's so much more to the chairmen and women of the pedal board. You're a CGO, Chief Guitar Officer.
The show where success meets guitar.
Welcome to Chief Guitar Officer. I'm Scott Haidt.
And I'm Judd Silver. Scott, do you work on your own guitars?
Barely. I changed my strings.
Oh, you do change your strings. I thought you had a tech, like at a moment's notice.
Yeah, come on in. Let's hand me my new guitar.
I mean, a lot of people are very intimidated by this.
Absolutely.
If you need serious work done, especially on a vintage, valuable guitar, you really want to go somewhere trusted.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's not an expensive guitar, if it means a lot to you and has value to you, you certainly want to have it in a pro's hands to try to get it into the best shape possible.
Definitely. There's a place in New York City that is called TR Crandall Guitars. The guys there have an incredible world-class selection and knowledge of everything vintage guitar and everything guitar repair related. But they also have Tom Crandall, who is one of the owners, he and Alex Whitman, the best of the best vintage guitars, guitar repair, restoration, anything you need done in an acoustic archtop electric guitar. If you're in New York City or if you're visiting New York City, this is a must stop. Just a wonderful place. Scott, tell us who our guest is today.
We're excited to welcome the one and only Tom Crandall from TR Crandall. And guess what? He's a CGO.
Human Vintage Guitar Encyclopedia, the ace of the archtop, the fixer of the flat top, the wizard of wooden strings, CGO, Tom Crandall. Welcome to Chief Guitar Officer.
It's great to be here.
It's great to see you, Tom.
Hey, Tom.
Tom, what are you working on today? What's going on there today?
Let's see. I have a Gilchrist mandolin that I'm working on. Yesterday, 2 days in a row, where I worked on two different Lloyd Loar mandolins, one for Chris Steely and one for Andy Statman. So that's kind of interesting. I mean, 2 days in a row, two very valuable mandolins belonging to great players. And who knows what comes up. I have, 100 guitars in here for repair. So I never know until I pick it up.
Tom, tell us TR Crandall, origin story of what TR Crandall is.
Well, both Alex and I worked at Matt Umanoff Guitars. And, we saw that sometime in the near future that it was not going to just last that much longer. Matt was getting older and so forth. And so we thought, rather than look like the ragtag kind of guys who threw together a business before Matt closed, we would just open our own thing. And we also had a different vision of what we wanted a New York guitar store to be. We wanted it to be a fun place to visit. Our whole thing when we talked about it was putting together a store that was a great experience. Because if it's not a great experience, you might as well go online and buy something, without interacting with people. So we put together, I had a stockpile of 76 instruments, probably 73 guitars, a banjo, and a couple of mandolins. And it was piled up in my Jersey City hovel. And we used that as starter fodder to get the doors open. And most of them were broken. So I had 45 instruments ready for the wall by the time we opened the doors, and we started with that.
And that was mostly vintage at the time?
Yeah, it was all vintage. Yeah.
So going back, Matt Umanoff.
Very well-known guitar store, known for repairs and vintage guitars. And so I worked there for 12 years. Mm-hmm. And then in 2013, Alex and I opened this.
And that was originally on 3rd Street in the East Village.
3rd Street, a very small place. We started with 45 guitars. And then by the time we left, 7 years later, we had over 200. We just ran out of space. I mean, that first space was beautiful and cool, but what are you going to do? And now we have over 400. And,
Wow.
it just keeps growing.
And that's a mix, like you said, of constantly having guitars in for repair, as well as a really, really incredible selection of really the premium vintage guitars we're talking about.
Yeah, we got some great stuff. And, interesting things to work on. Like in the last 2 years, I've worked on Jimi Hendrix's bedside guitar,
Wow.
Johnny Cash's favorite guitar, Tom Verlaine's songwriting guitar, and Tom Verlaine's Jazzmaster.
Wow.
So, and then I've worked, on all sorts of historically interesting instruments that are one of a kind, a lot of exciting stuff. I never grow tired of this.
The magic of what you do, Judd and I talk about you a lot. I mean, because everyone's at their different level of being comfortable with like handling an instrument and doing things as a player. And the idea of taking things that are maybe completely broken or just so rare, I really think of you as like the greatest surgeon of musical instruments.
I take that as high praise. It's exciting. And plus we have a really cool, fun customer base. This is the barbershop for a lot of guys. You come, you don't know who you're going to meet.
And one of the cool things is, I think you and Alex have really taken pride and been very careful and particularly specific about when you created the shop was it's not intimidating. When you go in there, there's this educational component.
Well, I think that was part of our plan too. First of all, you can't expect everybody to know what we know. And also younger people. You want younger people to catch that bug. It might have been Vince Gill when he came in. We talked about that, where you play that first great guitar.
Right.
And then you chase that, you chase that for the rest of your life, really.
That's right.
That buzz of playing that great guitar and go, wow, this is so amazing. Even if you can't afford it, it gives you something to shoot for, whatever, So,
absolutely.
And it's an endless learning process. Like we never know everything.
And there are things that I notice on instruments that I've never noticed before. Certain little details on say old Martins and Gibsons and other models that I've never seen before. Every time I think I've seen everything and understand the whole lay of the land, there's something new that walks in the door and I go, wow, I've never seen this. This is so cool. And I get as excited as I did when I played my first great guitar.
So cool. So cool. Do you have a really wild, memorable customer story that you can share with us? You don't have to name names.
Well, I would say, look, that's almost a weekly basis that we get something wild and unexpected. I'll tell you one that happened relatively recently, just because it was so entertaining. So Tommy Emmanuel was here, playing, and Vince Gill walked in. And Tommy, being the ham that he is, and he'll tell you he's a ham, he knows it, played a bunch of songs while Vince Gill provided like color commentary. And it was hilarious and interesting and fun,
That's a regular Tuesday.
You don't know who's going to run into whom,
right.
And I'm always, one of my roles here, I feel like, is introducing musicians to other musicians.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you know who Chris Thile is.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So Chris is, he's a world-class mandolin player. And David Immerglick walked in, who plays, with the Counting Crows and does mandolin and all these other things. And Chris didn't recognize him at first. And when David popped his head in and then went back out to try some instruments, I said, you know who that is, Chris? He said, no. I said, that's David Immerglick. He said, really? So we ran out. He said, I learned that mandolin piece of whatever song it was.
Oh,
and
wow.
I played it over and over when I was a kid, So it was really cool. And they exchanged numbers and said, we got to do something together at some point. That kind of thing is also a lot of fun.
It's a powerful thing how the guitar connects people, but you're really at the epicenter of it, like being in that role, in that position.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's fun to see who meets whom and what they're exchanging numbers. You don't know what's going to come of it.
I think a lot of the experience of what you do in this store, as like a trusted set of hands with an instrument, going beyond that, I'm sure through all your experiences with all these incredible artists and players and collectors and just people interested, there might be some story you want to share about how you've had opportunities to give back.
Well, I'll give you just a kind of a fun story. So one of the things we do is we offer a free setup for this music school on 3rd Street. They do a fundraiser every year, but the setup comes with that you get to come and I will show you how I set up your guitar.
Oh,
So you
wow.
come into the
That's
shop.
cool.
This turned into a really interesting encounter. This kid came in, his 15-year-old kid came in with his mom. He had won the auction for that, and he was kind of nervous. And there were like a stream of people coming in, and I was at the door sort of greeting them as they came in. And one of the guys who walked in was Walter Becker, but he made up some kind of a funny name for himself. I'm so-and-so, And so when this is when in the old place, I took the kid down into the basement and I said, you know who that last guy was? He said, no. I said, that was Walter Becker. And he said, Walter Becker? He says, Steely Dan is my favorite band.
Wow.
And his mom said, he's not lying. He's got the taste of a 45-year-old. I said, well, I'll introduce you. No, I couldn't do that. I don't know what I'd say. I had an experience with another rock star that I was introduced to, and he was kind of mean to me. And I said, Walter will not be mean. So all the while I was setting his guitar up, I said, you sure you don't want to meet Walter? No, I don't want to meet him, So when we were all done, I took him upstairs and I said, Walter, I want to introduce you to this guy, and he's a big fan. And Walter said, oh, what's your name? And then he said, what kind of axe you got there? He says, an Epiphone Bobcat. He said, the one with the Bigsby on it, that's a cool guitar, And they talked guitars, and this kid was just like, and then after he left, his mom shot an email and said, he's walking on clouds right now. Walter Becker is his hero.
That's beautiful.
That's
and Walter handled it so, he was a really kind human being.
So there you go. Tom Crandall making the magic in your guitar and beyond your guitar between people. I love that. It's a great story. Take us back before all this. The earliest memory you have of what drew you to the power of the guitar.
Oh, boy. Well, like the rest of us, I listened to, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, blues rock, 1970s rock music. And that's what drew me initially to the interest in the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't start playing until I was 19.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to mess with amplifiers and stuff. I started with an acoustic guitar. And then I heard Pure Prairie League on public TV play. And I thought, well, this is really cool. There's some cool things I could do. So I learned some bluegrass, and then I moved on to some jazz and all other stuff. So I always kind of had acoustic guitar in the center of my world.
Mm-hmm.
And really, what got me started in this was the urge to have a better guitar than I could afford.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a broke graduate student. And so I bought a Martin kit. I had a nice 1959, not so nice, 1959 J45 that kept falling apart. I thought, I'll sell that. I'll use the money. I'll make a guitar, and that'll be that. I hadn't finished that guitar 5 minutes, and I was like, you know what? I could do better. And if I knew how to bend sides, I could make another one. So I sold that guitar to a friend of mine who really wanted it, and I started on another one. And it just kind of built from there. That was really the start of me trying to do this for a living on my kitchen table in my Iowa City apartment.
Now, you mentioned you went to school. Did you study to be so technical?
No, my degree's in English Renaissance literature.
Wow. Got it.
But I grew up in a woodworking family.
Oh, okay.
Grandfather was a cabinet maker. And so I've worked with tools since I was a kid. For me, the obstacle to get past was that these things are made out of wood. Once I got my head around that and said, well, they're made out of wood. It's just working with wood. I can figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, a breakthrough for me. And then I got the bug and I started buying like parlor guitars at guitar shows for $25 to $100
Mm-hmm.
and fixing them up. And, I brought them to a guitar show and people there were blown away by the work. And there was this guy, Ron Hillis, who was a fantastic guitar player in Iowa City, who said, I'm going to make sure you do this for a living and that you're not an English professor because I think you'll be happier. And he was right.
Wow.
So he hooked me up with every musician in town, and it just took off from there.
There's a real thoughtfulness in how you are as a person. I think what you studied, working with wood, wanting to start with acoustic, I feel like that thoughtfulness really comes out in your work because it's very delicate and intricate. So now I think it makes more sense. Even what you studied in school, I think it kind of feeds that.
Well, one of the things that being a graduate student is I knew how to research.
Mm-hmm.
So I would research glues and finishes and, read up on violin making and everything I could find. to get a sense of how these things worked and the way to deal with them. And I still research. It's constant. I'm constantly messing around. If there's any kind of a repair that leaves a footprint, I'm disappointed. And so I'm always looking for ways to erase that footprint.
We know where you are physically, so I am certain there's some beautiful instruments around you.
I will show you one that I consider super cool. I have a passion for archtop guitars. I play swing music from the 30s and 40s. And what do we have here?
There it is.
Ooh.
This was Roy Smeck's L5.
Wow.
And
it's
gorgeous. Not only a beautiful instrument in lovely condition, it sounds great, and it's been played like crazy. I mean, the finish on the back of the neck is pretty well worn off.
Oh, wow, I can see.
That's an unusual inlay on the peg head.
Is that a guitar you're working on?
It's a guitar we bought.
Okay.
And we just haven't put it up for sale yet because we don't know exactly what to do with it. I've converted over 20. I lost track of how many Roy Smeck Gibson Hawaiian guitars I've converted to flat tops.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought, well, this is kind of a cool thing. It's, Roy Smeck's, and I have this kind of connection to the Roy Smeck world through those Hawaiian guitars. And so Alex suggested, why don't we buy it? And so we bought it. We've just been kind of sitting on it, not knowing what to do with it.
Did you have to do a lot of work to it?
I didn't do anything to it. It plays great.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's a rare occasion when you get a guitar like that.
That's a rare occasion. Yeah.
But eventually you'll put it up for sale.
Eventually we'll put it up for sale. It might be that the right person will walk in and will go, this is the kind of guitar, this is what you should have.
So people know where to find you. You're on Ludlow Street of the Lower East Side of New York City. And if people are in New York City, they should definitely come in and see it.
Come in and see it.
What's the best way to get in contact with the shop?
trcrandall.com.
You ship around the world. The amount of guitars there, the level of craftsmanship that you're always working on, it's a treat for any visitor. Vintage guitar, or you sell new guitars as well, correct?
We sell Collings. So Collings and Iris, which is a new company that's opened up in Vermont. So those are the two brands we carry so far.
So people can stop in, check out some guitars, say hello to whoever happens to be in the shop that day.
Exactly. You never know.
Great. Tom, thank you so much for taking the time. It was great to see you. And thanks for being such a great guest.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Tom.
Great to see you guys.
That's our show. Thanks for watching. And remember to like and subscribe to our channel. Check us out on all the socials at Chief Guitar Officer.
And we want you on the show. Go to chiefguitarofficer.com, look for the section called You're a CGO, send us your video, and be featured on a future episode. Just like this.
Hey, I'm Dave Weintraub, the CEO of Pinnacle Promotions in Atlanta, Georgia. This is my Collings I-35, and I am a Chief Guitar Officer.